Hi, Trish. Welcome to Revitalized Womanhood, the podcast. I'm so glad you're finally here.
Me too.
And if you are not, sorry, bubble in my throat. If you are not watching this on the YouTube, go over and watch this on the YouTube. It's worth it because we are sitting in Costa Rica in the backyard of our beautiful vacation house that we rented. It's absolutely beautiful in Hermosa Beach. And caveat, if you do go look and Gina looks like a drowned rat, it's because we just went and had the most amazing massage, and she was rubbing all the oil like all up in my business. I mean, and then I was laying there thinking, we're going to go record a podcast episode after this.
I know. I thought, what a great idea. Let's spend 9 days on vacation in a hot, humid place, go lay out at the pool all day and get a little bit sunburnt, then go get oily for massages, and that would be a perfect time to record the podcast.
That's a perfect time. That's when I look my best. We're glowing. We're relaxed and we're glowing.
Yeah.
Well, not to jump right in. Nope, never mind. I'm not going to jump right in. I want to ask you how, because you've been out of the country before, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So, but first time in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
How have you liked it?
It's been amazing. It's so beautiful and different and clean. The people are so nice. It's just been such a really great experience overall. Have zero complaints.
What's been your favorite part?
Favorite part? It's been nice here on the beach because it's just been so relaxing and chill. The ocean here is beautiful. The food has been great. Our first day was a lot of fun, too. Our first couple days in Fortuna?
La Fortuna.
That was really nice, too, up in the farmlands. Mm-hmm. That was pretty.
Really pretty.
And that was where we did a lot of, the more adventures and stuff.
Yeah.
But that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and the cloud forest is definitely something to live.
I can say
experience.
I've done it. It was very pretty, too.
Yes, it's very beautiful.
It was just very cold. I wasn't expecting to be that cold.
Very cold and damp.
And wet.
Very wet, to the bone. Now we understand what people in England feel like when you just can't get dry.
It was just 3 days of just being damp. It was crazy.
Everything. Well, we are so glad that you came with us. We love having people on trips with us. We invite people all the time while we're out. We love to have friends come meet us where we are. Rick's family comes and meets us. And this last year, my parents actually came and met us in the U.S., and that was really great. And so it's been so fun having you guys. I think Ryan and Rick are already planning on buying a rental property down here. So we'll see.
I think they should.
We'll see where that goes.
And it's been nice because our kids are at a good age. They play well together. I mean, most of the time. 95% of the time they have. And it's been great because they play. That gives us time to hang out. It gives the husbands time to hang out. And when we're spending time, all of us together, it just flows really well. It's been a ton of fun. So thanks for inviting us.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming. It's such a genuine thing for me to say thank you for coming because we truly appreciate it. We appreciate having you guys here. I was going to say, how did you feel about the length of time?
I feel like it was perfect. I didn't feel rushed in any of the spots. It felt like it was enough time. We weren't just go the whole time. There was enough time to do something, but also sit back and just enjoy being there.
Yeah. Would you be able to be here for another 2 weeks?
It depends where.
Obviously, we would have spaced it out
differently. A couple different spots. I don't think I could do the Cloud Forest for 2 weeks. I could do here for 2 weeks.
I could definitely do here for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
that's what Rick and we figured that out. We told them that when we came with our friends, we had done 2 days, 3 days, 3 days, moved around. But then as soon as we got to the beach house here in Jaco or Playa Hermosa, we were like, oh my gosh, 6 days or how many nights? Yeah, I think it was 5 nights or something. 5 or 6 nights we were at the beach house, and we're like, it's going to be too much for Rick and myself. That's too long. We don't. Mm-hmm. We figured out the perfect amount of time at one stay is 4 days. Yeah. The perfect amount of time because 2 is too rushed, 5 is too long. We figured out 3 to 4, whatever. So we get to this beach house, which is here, just down the road here, and we were like, nope, never leaving.
Yeah,
we're good.
Great. It's really good because the house is beautiful. There's a pool. It's right by the beach. It's just been Like, it's a great mix.
The kids and you, we all went out and chased crabs on the beach, had a bonfire that we were told was okay to do, even though then we were told, no,
you have to put it out.
No, please put that out. No fuego.
It was a fun 10 minutes while we had this.
It was a fun 10 minutes. We got it on video. We got the pictures we needed. Boom, done, check. Next.
Kids thought we were amazing.
Yeah.
It's cool. We did it for the gram.
We did it for the gram. So now they're leaving us, and we're so sad, and Rick and I are staying, and we're so happy because all of our friends are telling us how the snow is coming tonight, and Trish was just looking at the weather. J-Maine weather, snow.
We were going home, too. Well, they've had snow since we've been gone, and then they had ice, and on top of that is more snow. So it's going to get a little bit fun.
Hairy.
Getting to our home.
Hairy.
Actually, getting just onto our driveway is going to be like 4-wheel drive and gun it.
I was going to say, you guys kind of like can like swoop in, can't you? Can't you kind of like coast in?
Well, yeah, we could.
You may run into the house.
The problem is the snow plows come and they build up like this barrier. And so it's going to be like an ice wall. However, I did have a neighbor text. He's like, hey, like, you haven't plowed your driveway. Is everything okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm just down at the beach. He's like, oh, I'll go over and scoop it for you. So that was super nice. So at least we can, if we can get in the driveway, we'll be fine.
Yeah, you're going to have to snowshoe over the snowbank.
Over the hump.
Over the hump.
The first time.
Oh my gosh, that makes me not want to come home at all. Not that I'm coming home to Maine. My winter in St. George is much different.
Yes.
But 40 degrees and possible chance of snow is horrifying to me.
Especially right now.
Oh my gosh. Well, okay, so what I absolutely wanted to talk to you about is I shouldn't have left my phone in the house because some of the questions I've been asked to possibly start an episode that's a more Q&A, kind of like the Order of Man, Ask Me Anything, have a co-host, do kind of a question and answer round, hat seat. I like it. I love it. I didn't mean to set that up. Anyway, but one of the questions on there that was the whole reason I wanted you on here was about separating. This was about marriage, but it made me think about work and marriage life, but it made me think about homeschool in your home. So separating the homeschool from your home. But then I started thinking about, I don't necessarily think you guys do that. Even though you have a beautiful space that you've set up, an absolutely beautiful homeschool room, specifically for, I guess, homeschool, but you do a lot of your homeschooling outside of the classroom, right?
Right, and that's one of the most beautiful things about homeschool. Yes, we have the opportunity and the space to have an actual classroom, which is super handy. And it's nice because, like, that's where the books are, and that's where we start our day. Like, that's where we do schoolwork. However, sometimes it spills into the kitchen. Sometimes it spills into the library. One of my favorite things to do is on a snow day, I'll make us, like, a special treat, like brownie or a giant cookie, and we'll sit in the library and we'll just read stories. And so, yes, technically we have a classroom, but with homeschool, it's every day. It's every part of our life. Even on this trip, when we told the kids we were coming to Costa Rica, I had the boys start studying Costa Rica. Like, what is the culture? What language do they speak? What type of money do they use? And then as we were coming here, there's so many things to learn along the way, too. And so when we got into the country, okay, who can tell me what this sign says? Where do you find the bathrooms? Make sure you're saying gracias instead of thank you. And so just little things like that. It's homeschool, it doesn't stop. It's not, we don't go from 9 to noon. We don't go from 9 to 3. Like, homeschool is part of our life.
Absolutely. And I love that when people ask us about, do you homeschool your kids when you travel? And we're like,
oh, we just got a light on.
Whoa.
It's like a disco.
Whoa. I think it's our kids. Our kids are here.
I think it's actually our husbands.
Oh, well, the big ones. So when we're out traveling with our kids, people always ask, do you homeschool? And no. We don't. We world school. That's kind of what we say, is because what we're doing out here is not necessarily what's 5 times 5. What's,
right.
It's geography. It's landmarks. And like you said, every country we've been to, my kids learned hello, goodbye, please, and thank you in that language, which made Switzerland really fun because they have 4 languages. Which, it's all of them. I mean, it's the ones they all learned, but we never knew. We're like, okay, the official language of this country, the official language of this country. So we do things like that. So at 3 years old, my son could say the Eiffel Tower was in Paris, France, right?
And he knew that.
And he knew that because he'd been there,
right.
Which a lot of 3-year-olds wouldn't know that. But if you get so bogged down in the whole what they should, and we were talking about this, learning to read when they're 5 or going to kindergarten when they're 5, and they should learn to read, learn their alphabet when they're 5. And so you start to think that your kids are wrong or broken or not good enough if they're not reading at 5, if they're not, because Hayes didn't. We didn't teach him his alphabet. We didn't sit down and teach him. Castle learned by himself, weirdly enough. But Hayes, he didn't know. And when we came home from traveling when he was 5, before COVID hit, he could not identify letters. He did not know his alphabet. And I was worried. I really was. I was nervous. And I was like, oh, there's something wrong with him. What am I going to do? I'm going to have to start researching this. Castle took him into the back bedroom for an hour, taught him his alphabet, came out, boom, done. Easy peasy. He knows it. Nothing wrong. And I was like, okay, so I'm just a bad mother for not teaching him. Okay, noted. But he had the skills to do it. And then it just all came flooding in after that. But I was worried. I was so worried.
Yeah, well, I think especially as the mothers and when we're in charge of their education, we put so much pressure on ourselves. And we're trying to follow those guidelines that we grew up with. And the public school system, we're trying to follow everything that they're doing. And it takes away from the whole concept of homeschooling, world schooling, because we're not teaching them the same. We're teaching them an entirely different way.
Yeah.
And so my daughter, who's dyslexic, she still struggles, but she can read. However, she is a whiz at math. So by not putting her in this box of like, well, she has to be reading at this level because she's X, Y, Z, I say, okay, she is doing wonderful for what she is dealing with. And she is doing incredible in these different areas too. And so watching her bloom in the other areas, I think, takes the pressure off of, well, she's not good enough at this. And so if I was just judging her, I think it's Einstein had a thing like, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will think it's always wrong or it has failed.
Yeah.
And so that I think about that with her a lot. Like, okay, she's not great at this area, but look where she blooms in all these others. And so being able to step outside the box and say, okay, that didn't work for my family, or that didn't work for just this one child, but it works great for the others. That's where like the beauty of homeschool really comes in, because I know what my daughter is capable of. I can see where she's growing, and that's what's important to me. There is progress being made, and it's great for her.
And I love that. And I love that I've said it to some women in the sisterhood also that are considering homeschooling, and they're so nervous as mothers to do it because they're nervous that there is this set standard of what they have to follow. And I'm like, no, absolutely not. That is the whole point of homeschooling. Mm-hmm. It is what is working for your family, what needs to happen for your specific child. And you know, if I would have put Castle and Hayes, I mean, which I have, but if Castle and Hayes were next to each other in what the school district says is this or that or the other, okay, Castle is XYZ, Hayes is XYZ, ABC, whatever. What's right and what's wrong? They're going to tell me Hayes is wrong. Right. They are going to tell me Hayes is wrong, even though we know that Hayes could, on the streets, live. At the age of 8 years old, he could live on the streets and have a hustle, and he'd probably make a lot of money doing it.
Well, it's interesting because this week, you know, we've been literally with your family the whole time and seeing your two older boys, how they interact. Because, like, your oldest, he's very, calm. You can see he's taking things in. He's very thoughtful on things. And then your middle son, he just, like, goes for it. And he's experiencing, and he's diving right in, and he doesn't care. No. Like, he's all in. And so, like, what a wonderful opportunity you give them to be themselves. Yeah. And I was talking to your husband. It reminds me a lot of the movie Legends of the Fall.
Oh my gosh! I bet Rick loved that because that is his favorite.
We had a moment. We totally geeked out on it.
Oh my heck!
But the oldest son in the movie, if you haven't seen it,
oh my gosh!
Every parent needs to see the show. I mean, it's Brad Pitt.
It's who doesn't want to see that? All of them, all of the brothers, all of the brothers.
But to the
honestly,
point, the oldest son is he's the good son. He does everything right. He goes to school. He becomes a politician. Like, he does everything by the book, the way society has raised him. The next son, Tristan, he is like as free as the wind, and he has his own path. And it's such a beautiful thing to see that represented, because I see that in my boys at different times. I can see it in all of them. Like, sometimes they're the more mature older brother, but sometimes there's that wildness in them that brings out the Tristan in them. And I just think, like, what a beautiful opportunity to not kill that in them, to like let them be it and live it to the fullest. And I see that in your son too. And I love it. I absolutely love it.
I think that's my fault. My mom fell, I see, which I try to be better at, and traveling absolutely makes me better at it. Is when I started with Castle, I did have the very first child syndrome. They have to look this way. They have to dress this way. They have to be perfect, hands clean. Mm-hmm. You know, I was going after this checked box kind of ideology. And he was the perfect. I mean, he taught himself the alphabet at 1.5. He knew how to read quickly. He knew he was advanced, right?
Right.
So then the next one comes along, and I'm like, you are not those things.
Right.
You have to take a step back and be better at knowing what kind of a parent you want to be able to say, Hayes is amazing, for just like you were saying with Fifth. Hayes is amazing because he can do this, and I want to encourage that. I want him to be so excited and curious, and even though it makes me crazy, that's what's going to make him the person and that, I think, is why homeschool now, it used to be such a faux pas. It used to be the weird kids, and we were talking about this earlier.
Even like a few years ago, like, I always kind of thought, like, that's weird, and then like a little bit more as I was seeing, I'm like, okay, it's not so bad. And then when it came time for us to decide, like, public school again or homeschool, like, it was just such an easy, like, switch over, because I flat out thought homeschoolers were weird too. And you know what? We are. But we're like a special kind of weird. We are kind of weird. And you find other weird people like you, and it's awesome.
We're weird. We're weird because we want to hang out with our kids.
I know. What a concept.
What a concept.
Have children and want to hang out with them.
Oh, it's so weird. I think I told these guys, and I'm sure I've quoted it before, that there's an average of, in urban areas, the average time spent with your children is like 8 hours a week or something like that. It's an insane statistic. Like, they never see their children, because whether they're in school or mom and dad are working, or then they've got their kids in ballet or orchestra or whatever extracurricular activities you're just constantly shoving your kids into. It's like,
that just breaks my heart. I can't
imagine. Gosh. Oh, we are so dark here. Let's see.
I was wondering, should I try flipping on the light?
Well, we're back as the Blair Witch Project. Are we allowed to say words like that on different things that aren't copyrighted infringements?
I guess we'll find out.
And no one will listen to my podcast that cares.
It'll take a while.
It'll take a while. Then we'll turn it off. It'll be fine. It got a little dark out here. We're kind of really scared because there was a snake, a deadly snake. No, just kidding. A poisonous snake. But we came out here and it was the skinniest, littlest thing, and it looked just like a palm.
Like a stick.
Yeah, it was, and now we're waiting for it hopped up into the tree, and now I'm waiting for one to just.
And we're legitimately under some vines, so it could happen.
It could happen. It could get really entertaining here, and we've got all sorts of background noise. I'm sure Chad's going to go crazy when he gets this to edit. It's got dump trucks in the background and
kids screaming in the house.
Screaming, can't find a kid. We lost a kid. That's what happens when you have kid has been found. This is what happens when you have too big of houses. Never. If I can't walk to each room within like 6 steps, that's my house. We can walk in like 6 steps to each room. I'm like, there you are. There you are.
Okay. Eyes on everyone. Good.
Eyes on everyone. Anyway, bringing it back. Now we have some light on us. Hello.
It's really bringing out our glow.
It is bringing out our glow. Beautiful glow. Well, sister.
Yes.
I don't know.
I don't know where are we going with this.
Where are we going with this? Yeah,
gardening.
Oh, there we go. That was the next turn. So yes, homeschooling. That was. I really wanted to know. Okay, so for when women are wanting to think about this process, because you did the same thing. You didn't know. You were thinking maybe public school still, and maybe not, and you just decided one way. So where do you start? Like, where is the best place to not overwhelm yourself with all the things? Where do you start?
That's a great question, and I don't have a great answer for it because everyone's situation is going to be so different.
That's true.
However, the first thing, and I wish I would have known this when we first started homeschooling, was just take some time to break into it. Because if you're going from public school to homeschooling like we did, it's difficult because I wasn't used to having my kids home all day, every day. And so, like, even though I loved them, I was so happy when they were home, I'd had a 6-hour break every day during the school year. So it took a minute for us to get used to being home. And, like, that's what we did every single day. And so I think ease yourself into that. Start with just, like, a few things and learn how to, first off, be a family again. Like, learn how to be with each other. Learn how to share the space. Learn how to, like, be around one another and to care for one another and to love one another in that setting. And then you start adding things in, like, you know, I think if you can handle like a basic, very basic, start with math, reading, and maybe like some form of language arts. Start there. 3 things. Set aside, my 2 older boys are old enough, they can go off and I can say, okay, you've got half an hour of reading to do first thing. They grab their books, they grab a snack, they go find a comfy seat in the house and they go sit and read. And that's great for them. And then that gives me time to sit and read books with my other 2, my 2 younger ones. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they're reading the books, sometimes, most of the time, I'm reading the books. And then we get that time together. And then, again, my 2 older boys, they're old enough to do their math on their own. If they have questions, they can ask me. And then my 2 younger ones, I can help them and walk through it with them. And then language arts, we use the Good and the Beautiful program. It's beautifully done. It's all Christian-based. And it works really well for our family. The books are so well put together, and like level 1, level 2, level 3, they all build upon one another, but you don't need to have the previous ones to start, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So, like, you know, my oldest, he jumped in on level 5 or whatever, but he didn't need to have 1 through 4 before that to understand the concepts that were being taught. And so as I've gone through them for a couple years, you know, I can reflect back to, oh, yeah, last year we talked about this, and this is how they're tying it in this year. And so it's so well done. You literally open the book to your lesson, and you just start at the beginning, you read through it. And it tells you everything you need to do. So our language arts, sometimes we're learning, like with my 2 younger ones, we're learning that E and W say ooh. And we go through all the ooh words, like rue and flew and drew and all these things. And they have games that go with it. And then, like, maybe the next day they have, like, a beautiful water painting that we learn about the artist. And we learn how she did it. And we talk about things. They find shadow and light in the pictures and just these different things. And then we paint a picture. And so it's just, it flows so nicely together. And they're getting all these wonderful lessons that I myself, I don't know how to do that. Mm-mm. I would have never known that.
Yeah.
Or if I was putting together a lesson, it would have put so much energy and stress on me to do it.
Yeah.
But they have already done it for me. So the same with their math lessons. We open up the book and we do a lesson, and it builds upon what has been done before. And same with the older boys. My oldest, he's in high school, and they haven't gone up to high school and Good and the Beautiful. So we have other things for him, but there's so many resources, and there's so many people that are willing to help you.
Yeah.
And the biggest step you take is just deciding that, yes, we are going to homeschool. And from there, it really, like, there's so many options. And, like, things that worked well for us our first year homeschool don't work now. And so that's a beautiful thing. Like, halfway through the year, you know, we really don't like this science. We switch books. We do something else. And just having the freedom to do that has been so amazing. We just love it.
Well, and you keep in mind that is the reason that you're not in the school system. That is the reason that you're not doing that, is because you want the freedom to switch it up if it's not working. You want the freedom to pivot. You want the freedom to. But I love that you said the first step is easing back into being a family for that extended amount of time, because that's true. It really is true. That's imagine we all know what it's like. Bugs. We all know what it's like in the summertime when our kids are home from school, and it's like, and there's all those memes when you're sending your kids back to school, and it's like, ha ha ha, the party, woohoo, because you've been trapped in the house with your kids, and everybody's a lot of energy and everything. But once you ease back into this is what life is, and that kind of relates to us while we're traveling, is we have to know that we're going to be in the car all day today. We have to know that we can be together in a car all day, because that's what's going to happen. And a lot of people can't do that. They can't do that. It's too stressful because it doesn't happen. It's what we call our natural normal. So you have to first redefine your natural normal as a family. I love that. That's a beautiful first step.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I was going to a homeschooling conference. I went to the Wild and Free Homeschool Conference this past September.
September, yeah.
August or September. Fabulous conference. I highly encourage anyone to attend if they can. Even their online stuff is good. Wild and Free. So I'm at the ticket counter, and the lady that's checking me in, she's like, "Oh, where are you going? Somewhere fun?" I said, "Oh, I'm going to a conference." And she's like, "Oh, what kind?" And so I said, "It's a homeschool conference." And instantly, the 3 ticket agents are like, "Oh, homeschool." Mm. And she's like, "I could never do that." And I said, "Why not?" And she goes, "Oh, I'm so unqualified. I can't teach my kids, especially in high school." She's like, "How am I supposed to teach chemistry?" I said, "I don't teach chemistry." I said, "My son has no desire to do anything that would involve chemistry." She's like, "Well, what do you do for science?" I said, "Whatever he's interested in."
Yeah.
I'm like, there are so many different paths. He's really interested in animals, so we do a lot of animal biology. I said, "There's no reason to teach him chemistry when he has no desire to learn it." And she just kind of...
Amen, though.
She just kind of sat there with a look on her face, and then she flat out said, she goes, "Well, I guess that makes sense. Why would you teach them something that they won't use?" I'm like, exactly.
Why would you teach them trigonometry if they're not going into engineering? Or, I mean, is that even part of it? I don't even know. Becoming an astronaut or working for NASA. Why would you do that?
Right. Why would I teach my son that wants to become a computer designer? Why would I force him to learn human biology?
He's not going to be a doctor.
He doesn't care.
He doesn't want to be a surgeon.
All of that science and technology, I'm going to aim him in coding and computer science.
Yeah, in the right direction.
Exactly. So that's such a beautiful thing in homeschool, too. He doesn't have to regurgitate all this information that he will not use because he has zero interest in it.
Yeah. And because he has zero interest. We talk about this all the time, Rick and I, about college with kids. Mm-hmm. And they jump right into this because they think that that's what they need to do. They're checking the boxes. And it's like, for the first 2 years, you're paying all this money, or they're paying all this money, or racking up this student debt for what?
Exactly.
They don't even know what they want to be. Mm-hmm. They don't know what they want to do. They just feel like they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And wasting time.
Right.
Wasting time and energy on something that, if they knew what they wanted to do beforehand, if schools maybe would have guided them into the same thing, we customize everything in life. We want everything customized to ourselves. We just went and got swimsuits customized for us.
Right.
For our own bodies, for the style we wanted, for the pattern we wanted.
We customized each of our own bodies have.
Our own specific customization. Why wouldn't you want that for your schooling, for your education, for your future career?
Right. So my oldest, for the longest time, he wanted to be a veterinarian, which is great. He loves animals. He always wanted to do that. And so that was kind of the path he was going to go on, which would require college.
Yep.
Totally fine with that.
Totally fine.
And now, as he's getting a little bit older, he still wants to work with animals, but in a different way. He thinks it'd be great to become some sort of hunting guide and work on these hunting ranches and stuff. And he's like, if I went to school for business management, I could learn how to run them, and I could also become a guide. So he's thinking long game. Well, what is it that I really want to do? He's like, I would like to spend time hunting. How can I make that a career? Perfect. Tell me what you want to do, and we'll make sure your educational goals go that way.
Business plan.
Right.
When you're 14 years old, business plans for the future. How can I already make money doing this? And if any of you have heard Man in the Making on Order of Man or you know that's Brecken's in the right direction. He's got some great examples putting him in the right direction.
Yeah. Right, and that's been another beautiful thing with homeschool. He gets to meet all these amazing men that come through our home. He gets to go on these incredible hunts and conferences with my husband, and he gets to learn firsthand what these things really are about, who these men really are, and that has helped shape him into, not to be like silly here, but man in the making. It's him forming himself into the man he wants to be.
It's amazing.
With all these experiences at such a young age. It's beautiful.
I love it. I love it. So, Trish joined me. I'm sure there's so many questions. You guys, if you have all of these questions for homeschooling, I've already told Trish. I've already told her.
It wasn't so much of an ask.
It wasn't an ask.
No.
I've already told her. No, yes. I've asked Trish if she would be willing to come on like maybe once a month or maybe something and do Q&As for this kind of stuff. Like anything. Yeah, because, what you can ask me. Anybody can ask me anything all the time. You probably all know everything I have to say about everything because I'm not that shy about anything. But I don't know anything about homeschooling. I would love to get you that information. So yes, write into me, ask me the questions. I will pass them on to Trish. We will have another episode. We will do this again. I will find someone else. It's just like me finding, the right people. I want to bring I'm the catalyst. I want to bring the right information to you. So you guys have to let me know what it is you want to hear. And if it's homeschooling, which I know it is, because I know who my members of my sisterhood are, and I know that homeschooling is a huge thing right now, and right now becoming a huge thing for everybody. It's going to be a very important thing for everybody soon. And I want to do that. So that's it for that. But Trish came out to Southern Utah to my first retreat, and she had the women enthralled in the kitchen talking about her garden. And I have told Trish so many times, you're writing a cookbook. She would post these pictures of her garden, or her in her garden, or of her vegetables, or of her bees, and they are the most beautiful. If you go back on her Instagram page and see these pictures, they are the most captivatingly beautiful, simple, beautiful pictures. And I'm like, well, that's going in the cookbook. You've got a little tabby for every time Gina tags, every time Gina comments, that's going in the cookbook.
That's a cookbook picture.
That's a cookbook. So anyway, she had these women captivated by this, and it kind of follows up on my conversation I just had with Joey, and she is homesteading out of an RV. And I wanted to really drive home some more things that I don't think we got into enough. We had some really iffy internet, and maybe our interview didn't go as long as I really would have wanted it to. But homesteading, when I think of homesteading, I think of acreage, right?
Right.
I think that's the first thing everybody thinks of.
Exactly.
And that's not true. That is not true. I think more after talking to a lot of people and looking into it more, is homesteading to me is more being prepared for the unknown and having the skills. Right. I think you said it beautifully in your interview with Blood Origin when you said that hunting isn't something that you're like, oh, I want to hunt, but you're like, I want the skill to provide for my family. If the need arose that I needed to kill an animal, skin it, gut it, prepare the meat, clean it, prepare it, I wanted to be able to do that. And I was like, you blew my mind, because that's so right. That's so true. If I needed to do that, I would have no skill and I would have no knowledge of doing that. I have no problem doing it.
Right.
But I would not have the knowledge, and that's what's the key to life is knowledge. We never need to stop growing. So for you, again, that question, what is the first step for someone that wants to look into homesteading, or the concept of
starting a garden?
Yeah, starting a garden.
Right.
Where do you begin? Because I kill everything.
Well, everyone sees these pictures and they think, oh my goodness, you're such an amazing gardener. I can never do what you're doing. Let me just say this for the record. I have killed hundreds of plants. And you know what I did this year? Because it was just a wretched year in Maine for gardening. When a plant died, I planted a flower in its spot. I had the most beautiful flower garden this year. My bees were so happy. My vegetables did poorly, to put it lightly, but I had a beautiful flower garden.
Your bees needed it. Your sweet bees.
Oh, I got so much honey this year. So when it comes to gardening, so I grew up that's just what you did. I thought everyone gardened. Apparently they don't. I didn't know that. So I came from a family of gardeners. My grandparents gardened. My grandma always had a garden. But it was when my grandpa retired, he started gardening. Cute. And so I thought Grandpa was always a gardener. Because Grandma always did like the yards and the flowers and everything. I didn't realize she did vegetables because Grandpa took over it and he grew these. He would bring me once a week a 5-gallon bucket full of tomatoes. Like the biggest, most delicious tomatoes in these buckets every week. And so I thought Grandpa was the gardener, but apparently it was Grandma first. So, and even my great-grandma, she was an old, tough old bird. And she was gardening almost up until the very end. So, like, this is just what my family did. And so my mom had a garden. I remember her waking me up on Saturday mornings, and it was hot in southern Utah in the summertime. And I remember her waking me up.
Anybody grow a garden in southern Utah?
But my mom, bless her heart, she would wake me up, and she'd wake me up early because it was cooler in the mornings, obviously. And she'd say, "Hey, I've got the hose running on your row. You need to go weed." But she was so nice that she would wake me up early, and she'd have the water going already to soften up the dirt so I could weed. So, again, grew up weeding. So as soon as Ryan and I got our first house, one of the first things I did was I got a garden going, and it was awful, like absolutely terrible. And but I was so dang proud of my tiny little plants. I think I got a handful of tomatoes. Cute. I grew broccoli, and I made a salad. And friends came over and had that salad. I was so proud of myself because the broccoli and the tomatoes had come out of my garden. And I just remember being like so accomplished. And I don't think anything else came out of the garden that year. However, next year it was going to be better. And I knew it. And so that's when I really started digging into it. No pun intended. Because growing in southern Utah, it's tricky because it is very, very hot. And the soil is very, very rich with clay. So it takes... So I had to research. I'm like, hey, well, what can I do to make next year better? And then what can I do to make the next year better? And it was like, okay, if I add this to the soil, then I don't need to water it so long. And then it just got bigger and bigger from there. When we bought my grandparents' house, and like Grandpa had, this is where he grew all these magnificent tomatoes, but I had little kids and dogs. And I didn't want them running through my garden and digging up and knocking over my plants. So I did raised beds, which works great. But that took some finagling too. It took me a couple years, but then same thing, things started to grow. So it's not that it's like an overnight success. It's like, okay, this worked, this didn't. How am I going to improve next time? So when it comes to starting your garden, just start. Everyone has a window, right? Everyone perhaps has a front door. Is it in light? Start with a pot. Start with one pot. You can grow peas. I know we did peas in biology to do the, the genetics thing.
Oh, yeah. When you do the DNA, the eyes, the eye color. And
Start with peas. They're so simple. They're so easy to grow. Start with herbs. And, those grow perfect in your windowsill. Start with just something. Just start with something. And think, okay, did this grow well? It didn't. Why? And that's when you start digging into it and figuring out what works for you.
Enter science for homeschooling.
Yes. Each of my kids have their own garden bed.
They do.
It's 4 feet by 4 feet, and I did the square foot gardening. They had to research what seeds they wanted, where to plant them, when to plant them, and then they were in charge of weeding those boxes. And they were in charge of harvesting, and they got to see what worked and what didn't.
What are some weird things your kids have asked for that are not like your normal carrots, peas,
They're all pretty standard. My youngest this year was just hardcore on getting a pumpkin to grow. And he did until a certain dog chased a bird into his garden.
Oh, I bet that was a bad day.
It was a bad day.
Oh, that's a bad day.
But my oldest, he wanted to try growing bitter melon.
What?
Yeah.
What is a bitter melon?
I don't know. It's some sort of like Asian plant. It's all bumpy, and then you eat the seeds out of it. It's really weird looking.
Cool.
They make soups and stuff out of it.
Of course,
we didn't get anything to set on. Yeah, but the plants grew. But he also grew Brussels sprouts.
Ew.
We love Brussels sprouts. Oh, Gina, I'll make them for you.